We are back with another episode of Coaching with Impact. Welcome back. We are having an amazing guest today, and this podcast is really helping female coaches who are ready to step up their game and learn how they can make a lasting impact. And I am your host, Fifa Tran. I own Fame Modern Creative, and I help diverse female coaches shine with confidence through an elevated online presence using web design and holistic brand strategy. Welcome, Stephanie. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Fifa, I'm more delighted than you are. Thank you for having me on.
You're incredible. And I've seen you, I've known you for how many years now? I think like
A
maybe,
couple of years.
yeah, a couple of years now. And
Mhm.
it's been such a pleasure to be able to work with you in your own cohort as well, because you're a coach and you've been doing this for some time, and we've also been like in similar communities as well. So it's really cool that I have you here today and I get to interview you on all the things.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really fantastic to be here. And I love the synergy of when you do meet and you can share resources and then be part of each other's experience. Like you said, you were in one of my cohorts with Courageous Corner about a year and a half ago, I think. And I just want to jump off of something that you said because you are doing this to create impact. And that's something that is really dear to me as well, is being able to use my influence to create impact. And also you used one of my favorite words, shine. I love like to light, to shine, to guide. I mean, my coaching practice is called beacon coaching, and that's for a reason. It's very specific because shining the light and helping somebody else guide them to find their way, to find their identity, and what lights them up is truly my passion. And so I see you shining, and you have grown so much in the time that we've known each other. And it's just spectacular to see the confidence and you starting this. It's so brave. I give you so much credit, my friend.
Oh, I thank you so much for the kind words. I mean, it's been quite a journey, and I have amazing coaches like you along the way to cheer me on and teach me how I can navigate all these challenges. But yeah, there's so many things that I am so excited to ask you about. But before we dive into any of these amazing questions that I have in store for you, please tell us a little bit more about you and what your whole motivation was for becoming a coach in the first place.
Well, my name is Stephanie Rourke Jackson. I became a life coach 8 years ago and I trained for it. I went to CTI, which is Coactive Training Institute. It's out of California, but I did my training in Toronto area. I believe that training is very important for coaches to have. And you don't have to have all the certifications after your name, but I believe that having the understanding the methodology and the structure of coaching is really supportive, especially for your clients. So I needed to have that training, even though naturally I already knew that I was coaching. It was just part of the innate fiber of my being. I had people who would come to me since I was a kid and just say, can I bounce something off you, or can I get your advice, or can you help me out with something? And at some point in my career, my my husband said to me, if you could get paid for all those coffee chats that you have with women who are constantly saying, hey, can I grab a coffee? I've got something I want to share with you, or I just really want to have, your guidance on something. But I did not know, about 10 years ago that coaching was a legitimate career choice. I went into my first career in the fashion industry, and I am an expert in marketing, communications, and public relations. So that's where I got my original education, went to Ryerson for that, also Fashion Institute of Canada, and spent 25 years in the fashion industry. And I loved it, FIFA. That was from the
Wow.
time I was 12 years old, when you're just like, this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And it wasn't in design because I don't really like sewing and doing the design, but I love merchandising and marketing and understanding the behind the scenes aspect of the fashion industry, how it's made, the wholesaling, the manufacturing, the distribution, all of the marketing aspects of it. And working in that field
Yeah.
was just so exciting to me until it wasn't. And I don't know if any of your listeners or if you felt the same way, but when you are in something, whether it's a career, a job, a relationship, where it's no longer providing you with any kind of inspiration or drive to get up in the morning, and it's just fallen flat and you can't really put your finger on it, and it's not your boss or it's not the industry, it wasn't the building, because I worked in a really beautiful downtown space that was gorgeous and fashionable, and it was a magazine, and it was all the things, right? It was like a devil wears Prada kind of situation. And I would circle the building. I didn't want to go in. It took me like 10 minutes to motivate myself to get in. I was like, what is wrong with me? So just to give you a little bit of backstory, I had just gone through a major crisis in my marriage, and it really unraveled me and my whole world fell apart. At the time, I was seeing a life coach, and she was really helping me find myself and figure out what I wanted and what my vision for my life was, and how to manage my stress, and how to equip myself with strategies that helped me to cope, and then also to live again and find joy. And I was literally bawling my eyes out every time I left her sessions. And not because it was hard or tragic, it was because I was finding myself. And I was like, wow, this feels so good. So it was a friend who just said, I think you'd be a really good coach. I checked it out. I went online. I signed up, slapped down thousands of dollars for my training, and just went with it. And that's kind of like my style. I sort of fly by the seat of my pants a little bit. I say yes and then figure it out later. So I did that. And then 5 months of training, and I became a coach, and the coach leaders just said, go out and do it. You're already doing it. Like, you've got it in you. And it's thrilling to me to help people understand who they are. And I guess that's really my sweet spot. If I had to say, what's my niche? What do? I help people find their identity. I've developed a radical self-awareness tool called identity mapping that I take my clients through, and different branches of that. So anyway, that's kind of my coach story.
Well, yeah, you went through a lot of different phases where I didn't even know that you were in fashion. That's pretty cool. Like, I would have never known actually. It's like, oh, okay. Like for me, I met you as you were a coach. So you said it was a long time that you were in that field. You also did PR and marketing. So you have background in that. Now, I know that I'm going to ask you a couple of questions in that space because, like, you already have that background. Some coaches, like, not everybody has a marketing background. So when it comes to first starting off your business, it's a lot of people often go to social media and then they just kind of like figure things out on their own, and they don't have the guidance really. So I'm curious to know, like, when you first started, how did you get that first official client?
In coaching,
Yeah.
well, I did my course, and I was still working full time in the marketing role that I was in. And because of the coaches that I worked with at CTI, they really encouraged me to just start.
Mhm.
Don't think too much about it. Don't try to build your business. You don't need a website. You don't need a business card. Just get curious about people. Ask them questions. So that's all that I did. I just started asking my friends questions about what their struggles were. What were they trying to work through? What really annoyed them? What bothered them about life, their relationships, their work? And then I just took in that information, and I just used my coaching tools, inquiry, asking them powerful questions, asking them to consider a different perspective, asking them about, what balances them out. what makes them feel happy. Just doing that kind of research was for me, giving me the ability to know that I can coach, because what would come out during these coffee conversations was just a lot of information on where people found themselves stuck. And by asking the right question and then giving them the permission to be able to look at different solutions and different possibilities without it being a be all and end all and without any judgment, I found that they were getting these aha moments and looking at things a different way. And then we'd finish the conversation and I'd get an affirmation like, wow, thank you so much. That was so helpful. I've now broken through this problem and I've got an idea or I've got a solution or I feel like I can move forward. And that's all that I did. So once I started having these conversations with people and using the tools that I had learned, I realized that's it. That's coaching. So I rolled it into a very inexpensive, I just called them coffee chats, pay me $25, buy me a coffee, and we will have a 60-minute coaching session.
Wow.
And that's what I did. And then once those started coming through and I got testimonials, that was really important to me because, again, as a marketer, I wanted to, I said, for $25, I'm going to help you through this problem. If it was a good experience, I'd love a testimonial. And I started getting testimonials and I thought I got to build a website. So then I built a website. I hired somebody to do that because I'm not techie. And then I put the testimonials on there and I just talked about what I did and how I could help and what was the value that I gave to my clients and what they were getting from it. And so with that, I just kept going and people would refer. And it was just kind of crazy. So then I just started creating programs like a 3-month program and a 6-month program. I looked around, I did research. What are other coaches charging? Seasoned coaches and then ones that are just starting out. And then with the cohort too of CTI, the cohort that I went through my training with, we talked with each other. So I think networking and resourcing the people that you know and getting feedback is super important if you're just starting out.
I love that. And it's so cool that you just went and did it for $25. You offered that to people and you really started on just getting those testimonials because that really is like what sells, right? And then you having a website later to showcase these testimonials, that just speaks for itself. So what's interesting about talking to you is, because like now you've been in the space for so long and you don't rely so much on social media. You just like go out there, you run retreats, you get in front of people physically, networking events and all these different things, right? So like I know I see you on social media, but would you say that's like really that primary place for you to be getting clients?
That's one layer. That's just one layer.
Yeah.
But marketing is multifaceted and there are so many ways that you can communicate and speak to your audience or connect with your audience.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what you offer is key.
Yeah.
And then being able to create a story around that and solutions to problems within that niche is really key. So once you've established that, you can utilize whatever layers of marketing are available to you and the ones that you feel comfortable with. Maybe it's doing a newsletter every couple of weeks or once a month with MailChimp. Maybe it's doing in-person retreats or workshops or online. I utilize Eventbrite a lot. Like I use the most basic parts of all of those applications that are available to us, Canva, Zoom, Eventbrite, and I create a program or a workshop or an event or retreat. And then I put it up on Eventbrite. And then because that's created with a date and a deadline, and it's very specific on what the offer is, then I just use whatever free promotions I have available. So Instagram, Facebook's not my favorite, but I'll use it. LinkedIn is really good because you get a different type of person, more professional. So knowing who your audience is and then speaking in the language that will evoke um, attention from them is really important. So thinking about what would this person want? What would a 45-year-old woman who is working full time, has 3 kids, and has a busy life, what would she want? What would give her, some time to herself or relieve some pressure or some stress? And then I create something around that, and I speak about it from that angle.
I like that. And you don't overcomplicate things at all, which I really admire that about you. Because I remember when I was in your cohort, like most people would use like, I don't know, like MailChimp and like all these different platforms to like get their mailing list together and everything. But I know I saw you just use your Gmail or your email, and that was it. You just send your emails. You don't have to overcomplicate it with all these different tools out there.
Yeah, I'm not a tech person. The learning curve for for learning new technology is not in my wheelhouse. I have a very strong inner critic that likes to remind me of how stupid I am for those kinds of things. And I say that lightly because I've worked through all of that. That's one of actually that's a part of my program that is something we really focus on, because everybody does have that little voice of the inner critic that's there to take you out, hold you back, keep you small, warn you that things are not going to go very well. I do a whole workshop on that. And unless you're a narcissist or a psychopath, everybody's got that voice that makes them feel like they're an imposter.
Yeah.
And if we can understand why that voice is there, like my voice is called dumbass, and dumbass is there to remind me that there's so many people out there that are smarter than I am with a lot of letters after their name, and I have no business being around that conference table or in that setting or that room. And I've learned through my own approach, I call it it's a 5-stone approach, on how to calm that voice. I also know that that voice is there as a protective measure, because dumbass doesn't want me to go out there and make a fool of myself, but she'll also hold me back from my dreams, right? From my child, from when I experience some challenges, that's when I grow. That's when I stretch. That's when I actually become the better experience of myself. And that's when I achieve things, and that's what's exciting and motivating. So learning how to calm down those voices and be able to still step out and do the thing that you want. So when it's techie things, you're right, I look for the simplest solution. What do I know that I can do well? And if I can't, I get somebody else to do it for me, because there's no sense wasting time, energy, resources on things that are just going to drive me crazy and frustrate me, and they're not in my sweet spot. I have other attributes that are so much more compelling and enjoyable that I want to stay in that lane.
I like that. And there's really no need to overcomplicate anything. I tend to do that a lot. I'm a very techie person, but at the same time, it could deter me away from getting that actual thing done, because then I would get shiny object syndrome and I'm like, oh, this is such a cool tool. So it can work against you too. But I love that you do not overcomplicate anything. You just, if it doesn't work for me and I know I need this tool, I'm going to get somebody else to do it for me and just
Yeah,
focus on your zone of
exactly.
genius. Yeah.
Reserve your energy. And that's a big thing too. Like when I'm working with my clients, we really do a check-in on their energy levels. When do you have big energy? What time of the day? What is it that you're doing that gives you that sense of flow, that makes you feel like, oh, I could do this all day long. This is my jam. I'm so motivated to do this. And when we can understand what those parts of ourself are, and I call that the shine quality. So when you were in the Courageous Corner cohort, we did a lot of work on establishing our values, what's our vision, and then our mission for our personal yourself as well as for a business. If you're, an entrepreneur, or you're working within your business, and you want to be able to establish that, because those statements give you clarity. And when you have clarity, it's just easier to go forward and do it with more excellence. But knowing your shine, that's really, really important. And what does that mean? Well, you have personality traits, you have natural abilities and strengths, you have skills that you've learned. By the way, confidence is a skill. So I try to tell everybody that, because they think that, oh, you're just so confident, or no, confidence is a skill. We can practice it. You can learn it. It's something that everybody learns. um, and knowing what you're passionate about. So when you put all of that together and you actually do assessments, and I'm a big believer in assessments, and not so that it labels people. Like, nobody knows what an ENTP is, or an Enneagram 8, or that I'm a yellow, or that, like, you can't use these letters and names because it's not common language. But
Mhm.
what you can do with reputable assessments is get the results, and then pick out from that result, from that outcome, what words and phrases really align with who I am and with who other people say I am. What do people come to you for? What are they tapping you on the shoulder, asking you about? What are you good at? What do you do with ease and excellence and energy that just fuels your tank, that makes you feel good? Putting more of that into your day and actually scheduling time to do the things that feel fulfilling is what a purpose driven life is about.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's so important to do that. It's, we're all in a hustle society right now, and especially with everything being so expensive, it's all about survival mode, but a lot of the times we neglect ourselves, and
Mhm.
then we just don't give the energy that we deserve to actually replenish ourselves. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, and it's a really important reminder for people, and that's why we all need coaches to help.
Exactly. Coaches need
Yeah.
coaches. I have two coaches. Therapists need therapists, teachers need teachers. Like, we
Yeah.
all need, and mentors. Like, we do
Yeah.
need a village. And when we don't ask for help, that's when we actually do ourselves the biggest disservice. And I was one of those people, FIFA. I was brought up in a culture where, you had to do everything yourself. You had to, like,
Mm.
be the strongest. Don't ask anybody for help. Don't depend on anybody. Depend on yourself. That was the culture that I grew up in. And it was detrimental because I didn't ask for help. And
Mhm.
probably in some areas of my life, I would have really benefited from going to therapy earlier or getting a coach. One thing that I did do, because I respected um, somebody early on in my career who said, "Get yourself a mentor." And I was like, "Don't know what that is, but sure, I trust you. I look up to you. So what does that mean? Find somebody who's done the same thing that you've done, but is, 5, 10 years ahead of you, who will take
Mhm.
you under their wing, give you some time. You come with the questions, all of your, inquiries, the things that you feel like, I don't want to ask my boss about, or I don't want to ask my colleague about, but I have a mentor who can then give me some advice, some wisdom, some inspiration, ask me questions, and hold space where I don't feel judged." And I had
Mhm.
that, like, early on, and that really did support me when I was, climbing the ladder in my fashion marketing career. And it paved the way to
Oh,
a lot of good connections, high level connections, got me a lot of different jobs, and serving on different boards. And I was really a big fan of networking, even if it's scary. I know you walk into a room, you think, I don't know anybody here,
yeah.
or even if it's online, it it builds your confidence. It helps you build resilience.
Mhm.
It is fundamental, I think, to just living a life and being able to network, and then being able to share your network, or your Rolodex that we used to do back in the 80s and 90s. Let me just swirl my Rolodex. Let me see who I can. Here you go. And making a connection. And that's part of my identity, and something that I
Mhm.
value really strongly. It's a core value of mine, is connection. And I do believe that as human beings, we are created to be in community, and we thrive best in community. And so helping somebody else connect with a resource or another person who will help them, it just like that just gives me such a thrill. I'm always I can't not do it, right? Like you know the things that you can't not do, you're so compelled towards them. Um, know what that is, reflect on it, be aware of it, and then continue to do something about it. Like this is at the base of my business and my life. FIFA is aha. You know when you have those aha moments,
Yes.
like oh my gosh, the light bulb goes off, the sparks are flying, you feel like oh lit up. So aha, and I think I should trademark this, but to me, AHA is an acronym that just means awareness with honesty that drives action,
Oh, I love that.
right? So you get aware of something, you're like, you notice something for the first time, get really honest about it, figure out, you know, what's holding you back or what you enjoy about that, articulate it, and then move to action, do something about it. This literally, for your listeners and anybody else, literally try aha several times a day. Just stop what you're doing and just go, what's my aha moment right now? What am I aware of? What am I noticing? Let me get really honest about it. Don't justify it or minimize it or push it down. Don't suppress. Get really honest about it. And then what can I do about this? You know, what action can I do? That will move you forward.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to be more present. That's what it is.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
just that's what self-awareness is about.
Yeah.
Is just taking a moment to just be aware of what's going on. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I doing? Why? What's triggering that? And if it's something good, how can I repeat it? If it's something that feels negative or heavy or it's a challenge, then what can I do about it? Can I ask for help? Can I take a course? Can I go to therapy? Can I journal? Can I say, I need a rest? Like doing these kinds of things in our life, doing a heart check. Like there's so many times when I hear from my friends or my clients, like, oh, I don't know what it is. I just haven't been feeling like myself. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. I mean, we all can feel a little bit off, right? Like well, I'm not sure. Is it the moon? Is it the weather? I don't know if it's the pizza I ate for lunch. You know, like you just don't feel like yourself, right? And that's disconcerting. It throws you off. And then you don't want to like do the work or, you know, go out in the evening and have time with your friends. So you're feeling off. Here's what you do. It's really quick. You do a heart check and you ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I exhausted? Am I angry? Am I resentful? Or am I tense? So that's the heart check, right? If I'm hungry, have a snack. Maybe you didn't eat anything since breakfast and it's now 5 o'clock. Am I exhausted? Okay, do I have time to have a quick nap? Maybe I'll get to bed earlier today or tonight. Am I angry? You know, what's pissing me off? What's upsetting me? Maybe it was a, you know, conversation that I had with my boss last week and it's still hanging on. I need to clear that up. I need to have a courageous conversation. I need to talk to somebody about it, or I need to figure out how to let it go. What am I resentful of? What am I envious of? What's keeping me bitter? It could be something from 10 years ago. And then what am I tense? Like what's stressing me out right now? Is it the economy? Is it the weather? Is it my mother-in-law? You know, and figure out a way to be able to get through that. Maybe I just need to go for a walk. Maybe I need to go to the gym. Maybe I just need to, you know, throw a glass on the ground and break it so I can work through my anger or punch a pillow. I don't know. There are lots of ways you can be able to get through that. And honestly, it's like once you figure it out, because the mind wants to have a solution. We are meaning making machines. We don't like ambiguity. We don't like being in a fog. We like to be able to like have a solution or a couple of options and then be able to tie it up. So once you filter it through heart, it's really easy just to go like, oh, that's what it is. Huh. Okay, nothing wrong with me. Let us take a nap or eat an apple.
Yeah. It's like how often do you check in with yourself, right? And that's why I'm such a huge advocate of journaling because that is really the tool that allows you to check in with yourself. And, all these different practices, there's different ways of doing it, but, meditation, all that stuff, getting grounded and being in the present moment, amazing tools for you to really check in and stay grounded with yourself. So, love these tips. These are incredible. Definitely going to do that more often, where it's like, especially when you're in the heat of the moment and you're doing a bunch of things, it's like, okay, wait, let me just stop for a second and really think about it. Why am I feeling this way? And actually, ask those deep questions to yourself. A lot of people just brush it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And get on
Yeah.
with their
And then
day.
exactly. And then 10 years later,
Yeah.
you're having a breakdown or burning out, and you're like, well, where did that come from? Years of stuffing it down, not paying attention, not being present, not carving out time for yourself, not breathing. Like that's
Yes.
just one of the easiest ways is just take a breath. But the awareness of self is so important in order to be able to communicate with other people who you are, what you're
Mhm.
interested in. If you have to define yourself by roles and titles, I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, I live in Richmond Hill, I'm a coach, I make this much money a year, I'm married. What do you know about me?
Yeah.
Not much. And a lot of that can change. My kids
Mhm.
grow up. They don't really need me as much anymore. I'm not parenting the same way. I could lose my job. I could move out of where I live. I might get divorced. If I hang my identity on roles and titles and that's gone, I will lose myself, which is where I find a lot of women, especially because they tie their identities to either their job or their role as a mom or as a wife or as, a community leader.
Mhm.
They don't really know who they are. They're doing something, but they're not being something. When you can share who you are from your being, it creates intimacy. And intimacy is into me, you see.
Oh.
That connection is what humans want, right? We all want to belong. We all want a sense of feeling included, that I matter, that I have purpose here, that who I am is worthy and valuable just for being a human,
Mm.
right? And then what am I interested in? Why don't I make time to insert myself there? Because my best contribution is going to be when I can do something from the essence of who I was wired to be. And a lot of times, our family of origin, our culture, society, the media put expectations on us, and we do those things, and we're miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a fulfilling life. And I've noticed this a lot too, especially in this new area that I'm coaching for adults with ADHD, with the neurodivergent brain. Diagnosed myself 7 years ago, in my early 50s, was revolutionary. It was first stunning and a little bit of I was taken back a little bit because it was like, oof, now how do I navigate that? However, that said, it shouldn't have been too much of a surprise. All 3 of my children were diagnosed with ADHD in school, which was great. Now we know, how to support you better, how you learn best, strategies to support your success. So that was great. We worked with the, special education teachers. We worked with their teachers, with their counselors, with doctors. My husband and I went to all kinds of conferences. We did webinars, we read books, we got immersed in understanding what ADHD meant. And so that we could give our kids the best support and the best access to them thriving rather than trying to keep them in like a box. We encourage them to be who they are. And then there are real struggles as well with ADHD. So knowing all of that and seeing the symptoms and understanding that for 20 years, it shouldn't have been a surprise that, suddenly all my coping mechanisms that I had established from when I was young kind of fell apart during COVID. and, the stage of life that I was into and hormones and all of that. And I was like, what is wrong with me? Finally went, got the diagnosis. I'm like, okay, now I've got a place to like really start and use strategies that are the most helpful to me. So from that, I took my coaching methodology and my identity mapping components of that course, and then I worked it into advance ADD Vance for adults with ADHD who want to function well at work and home, to understand what their symptoms are, to give them strategies that are specialized for the neurodevelopmental behaviors and cognition that they will face, and be able to give them the ability to feel successful, because the strategies are different and the way that you need to communicate with people is different, and the way that you have to advocate for yourself also is different, and that's a whole level of confidence that needs to be up leveled in this field. And we're hearing a lot of buzz about it now, I think, too, because a lot of women especially were undiagnosed in school or misdiagnosed with anxiety or OCD or dyslexia, which can be comorbids of ADHD. But once you know that it's your brain and the way that the neurotransmitters work, you can actually put practical tips and strategies in place that help you function so much better.
Yeah, that's incredible. See, and you're right, it is buzzing now. There's a lot more talk about this, and more and more people are getting diagnosed with it. I feel like I might even have it. So it's like I
Yeah,
should
well,
tell
here's the thing. I mean, yeah, everybody can be a little bit, unfocused and
them.
have their attention, fractured, because we do live in a society that's really fast.
That's it.
But you have to have had at least 5 to 6 of the major symptoms,
Mm,
cognitive, behavioral symptoms, by the age of 12. So look back through your report card. Did your teacher say, so capable, but really chatty? What a daydreamer. Just needs to focus a little bit more. It has nothing to do with your intelligence, but everything to do with the way that you cognitively experience information. It's all about the executive functioning component of your brain, which is where all the planning and organizing and task initiation, completing of tasks, time management, all of that function happens there. And it is either diminished or there's a deficit. It doesn't mean that you can't. It just means it's a lot harder. It's really a lot harder. And with people who have it, it's so frustrating because feel like, what's wrong with me? And it's not wrong, but there are different ways that your brain is wired and operates. So learning that and then being able to understand also the strengths that somebody with ADHD has, like high creativity, really good in a crisis, thinking outside the box, high resilience skills, very good at noticing because the sensitivity is higher because you have more emotional sensitivity. So being able to lean into that and recognize where those attributes of yourself can be well utilized in the world, and that you can actually assume a level of confidence with, changes everything.
yeah, that's like a whole topic in itself. There's like a
Yeah.
lot that goes deep into that.
Of course, we went all over the place because, it's my ADHD.
And I love
But
that you're doing
channeling it well is really the key,
it.
and knowing about it and not being embarrassed and carrying around shame,
Mm,
but just embracing it and saying, okay, this is, again, it's right? Oh,
yeah.
awareness. This is what I have. Let's get honest about it. Let's not put it aside and say no. And then what am I going to do about it? Okay, I've got a therapist. I've got strategies, I've got tools, I've got apps, I've got, like, my alarm will probably go off very soon. I need to use an agenda. I need to have accountability. I need deadlines. Like, these are things that really help support somebody with an ADHD brain.
Yeah, and like you had the experience all throughout, your whole life, and you got diagnosed with it. So now you're helping others to cope with these and, find all these different methods of how you can get through with knowing you have ADHD. and working through that. So I wanted to circle back on the community aspect of things because I know like that is really your superpower. I know you host retreats and all. Like how often would you say you're hosting retreats?
Well, I do a few day retreats
Okay.
a year, so spring and summer and fall. I love doing those, and I do them primarily at a friend. She has a horse farm and she does equine assisted
Wow.
therapy. So I do my sessions, then we go out into the paddock with the horses, and it's such a beautiful experience to be with these large animals.
Yeah.
But it's learning how to step in and have courage. And so a lot of my workshops are around that topic of
Mm,
courage and confidence and building that within ourselves. And so I post those on my Instagram. I use Linktree a lot, and post them on Eventbrite. And
mhm,
then weekend retreats too. And again, it's the same. It's a spring, usually a summer and a fall. And I do that with a partner, and our business is called Chaos to Calm. So you can follow that. We've got a Instagram and a Facebook page as well, Chaos to Calm. And it really is that. It's just like leave your chaos, leave the grind of day to day life, whether it's parenting or, working, and just going away somewhere, just yourself, just to learn about yourself, to take some time to breathe, to do some yoga, to have a coaching workshop, to go on a walk, a hike, eat good food, talk with other women around the campfire. It's so important. And you're right. Building those community spaces
mhm,
where other women can come together and talk about similar life experiences, ages and stages, some struggles, and then learning from each other too about how to manage things better, how to have more joy in your life, how to connect and have a network. So I'm all about really creating spaces for people to network and feel held, but that also promote growth and resilience and courage.
yeah, because like during these spaces, like, you're also sharing your expertise, you are helping others, and you're really connecting with people. So that's like one really unique way of being able to grow your business as well, especially if it's something that you value. It makes you happy that you're doing it.
Mhm.
Is there any other innovative way or cool thing that you've tried that has also helped you grow your coaching business?
I think speaking, if you like to speak, if you're a communicator, and I know you've been doing that as well too,
Mhm.
but just finding opportunities in organizations, bringing a topic to them to say, hey, would your company or your team benefit from learning how to manage stress and create more happiness in their life? I
Mm.
say that because I'm going to be doing one in a couple of weeks, so that's very fresh. So I'm working on that workshop. Or do you find that your leaders are being held back and that they're not really stepping into their full potential? Do you find that you're having a lot more sick days? Like, is there an inability for your team to resolve conflict? So again, it's looking for those topics and then thinking, how can I create a workshop or a talk that's going to be helpful and give solutions and real value to that problem? And then just put it together, put it into a pitch, call the right person, whether it's, the HR department, or most organizations now have a learning and development department. A lot of my clients who work for major organizations, they have, yes, they have health and benefits, but unfortunately, coaches do not fall into any kind of benefit plan. That's not just me. It doesn't matter if you're ICF certified or how many initials you have after your name. Coaching is not recognized because it's not medical. So you can't put through for your health benefits. However, organizations do see the benefit of their staff, their team, their managers, their executives working with a coach. And so they will establish a development budget for that. And so I've had clients who have put it through in that area. Maybe they've been given, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is, to be able to use towards their own personal, professional development and growth.
Okay, that is very cool. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now, I know we talked about a lot of different things, and yeah, just to wrap things up now, I would love to hear a little bit more about the stuff that you have going on. What's coming up for you? Please tell us more about these.
Yeah. Well, I've always got something happening. So whether it's a one-to-one individual plan, and that's where anybody can come to me, and for your audience too, I will give out a 30-minute clarity call. So if you think, oh, I might want to work with Stephanie, or what else does she have available, we can just get on a chat and do that for 30 minutes. That's free, and you can schedule that through my tool on my website or through Instagram. And I have a Courageous Corner community coming up, which is what you were part of,
Yeah.
Fifa. And I do that quarterly. So there is one that's going to be starting in April. And then again, I'll do a summer one and a fall one. And so that's with a small group, and we get together, and it's over 10 to 12 weeks. I do bring in other expert speakers. Again, I'm all about community. And so bring somebody who talks about money and nutrition or wellness, different speakers that are experts in their field. And then I also do my own coaching program. So Courageous Corner community is one. Advance, if you are thinking about, or you've just newly been diagnosed, or think that you might have some of these symptoms, and you want to get into that further with me. Advance is the course that I work with my clients on. I do small group online, so it can be global. And also I do one-to-one.
Lots of things happening in your world. Excited to hear all about it. And where can people best find you?
I like to hang out on Instagram. It's kind of my jam. It's easy, it's quick, it's fun. So I'm at Beacon_coaching CA.
Okay, cool.
And then on Facebook, it's Beacon Coaching. On LinkedIn, it's Stephanie Rourke Jackson. And then my website is beaconcoaching.ca.
Amazing. So definitely check out Stephanie, connect with her, and get that clarity call because, you shared so much value in this episode. So I'm learning so much from just talking to you. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And I know we have lots of different subject matter experts and experienced coaches like yourself on this podcast. Definitely continue to tune in. And if you loved this episode, please give us some love by just sending over voice notes or even just giving us a review. That would be so helpful. But feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your time. And I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too, my hun.
Thank you.